Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another week here with us on Just Gay Stuff podcast. I am Jess.
And I'm Lauren.
And today, I'm so excited.
Me too.
We have an absolutely fabulous guest joining us, and I have to say, I've been looking forward to this for a while because we did organise this a while ago.
We did. We've had a few correspondence for quite a while.
I feel like this is our Christmas present to us
yes.
because, you know exactly what I'm saying
I do.
now. Now, everyone, you may know her from her time on RuPaul's Drag Race Down Under Season 2, from UK vs. the World, or from being the latest Liza Minnelli impersonator to take the country by storm. Today, joining us here on the pod is the amazing Hannah Conda.
Hello, Hannah.
Hey, hi, my angels. It's so good to finally be here.
We are so stoked.
I might forewarn you, we're about to have a thunderstorm here in Sydney, so the internet might go out, but hopefully we're fine. Fingers and toes.
Yeah,
Fingers
and
crossed.
toes. Okay, so Australia was first introduced to you and your fabulous drag in 2021 when you graced our screens on RuPaul's Drag Race. But how were you first introduced to drag and how did it start for you?
Oh my God. I can't believe 2021 was when Drag Race happened. That is wild.
4 years ago now.
Wow.
Insane. But I started doing drag in 2010, and it was when I started going out at 18 to the court in Perth, and I saw drag really for like the first time in person that I can remember. You always see, like, you think back once you've been doing drag for a while, like you think back to all these characters you've seen in film and TV. And I used to love Priscilla, and I love Tu Wong Fu, Thank You for Everything, Julie Newmar, with like Patrick Swayze and Wesley Snipes and John Leguizamo. But like, I like that, but I didn't know there was drag. I didn't know what it was called. And Mrs. Doubtfire, how can I forget Mrs. Doubtfire?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So like, drag was always around, but I didn't realize that it was a thing that I could do or it was around me in my local bars or anything like that until I started going out. And I saw it when I first went out to the court, and then I think it was only maybe 6 months into being 18 I had started doing drag.
Wow. So was it introduced to you by a person, or these people just inspired you and you thought, oh wow, I'm going to give that a go?
Yeah, so my friend Ruby Jules, who's still doing drag now as well, I met them at a drag, and Ruby and I just bonded, and then Ruby was doing drag, and so I was the drag bag bitch for her. So I was carrying her bag into the shows, and then she was like, you need to give drag a go one night. And I was like, no, it's too gay for me. And she's like, no, do it once. And I did. And it was a competition, like an amateur drag night, and the winner got a bar card for the venues. I think it was like a $50 bar card. And I was poor, and, I wanted to like get messy. So I was like, okay, I'll do it for the bar card. And I went in and I did the show and I won, but it was overruled by the drag queen host at the time. Because she was like,
what?
I know. So, because
blasphemy.
I was furious. So she said that, like, usually the way it worked is that you'd go into the court for the 10 o'clock show. And that was like where everyone was there and it was the bigger show. I didn't know that there was an early 9 o'clock show, but apparently there was. And she said, well, no, I'm overruling this win. You have to compete in both rounds to win. So she made me come back the next week to do both shows. And I won. So I got my bar card the week after. She taught me a lesson that you can't just come in and do the easy thing. You have to put in the effort and come and do both shows. And the 9 o'clock show was dead. There was no one around. But it was a good lesson. I was furious. I don't like being told I can't win or can't do something. So I had to prove her wrong. But that's where I got stuck, because I went back the second week because I needed to win. And and that was it. I was like, this is love. I really haven't had too much time off drag since then, really. There's a couple of weeks here and there, but yeah, it's pretty much, I've solidly been doing drag since then.
Wow, and you were hooked.
That's like a love at first sight story with an art, isn't it?
Have you heard of Carmen Get It?
No.
She's one of the Sydney local girls here. She's one of my best friends, and she always says it best. She's like, it's a mistake that got out of hand. and it's so true. Yeah, and it's too true. Like, now I'm too far in. Like, I've overcommitted. I was thinking about like, oh, what would I do if I didn't have drag, or like I couldn't do drag anymore? And then I was like, well, put all my eggs in one basket. I don't really have anything else.
Oops.
Yeah, we'll see.
But sometimes you get beautiful things out of mistakes anyways.
Oh, definitely.
I guess that's what art is.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, it is. I'm very grateful that I have it. Like, it's not always, sunshine, rainbows. It is quite a tough job, especially in the climate that we're in now. And I've been in the industry for now 15 years. Like, I've seen it change, and I've seen drag go from real high pinnacles and like real magical places to really deep, dark places. And it's an industry that, while it's in entertainment, it's a different beast. There's a level of grit. And, I see lots of young kids that start doing drag, and they're 3 months in and they go, I got to have a hiatus. I'm having a break. It's too much. It's like, well, you can't do that.
No.
You got to dig your toes in, and you got to get dirty, and you got to really stick with it. It's not for the faint of heart, drag, because it's not just one art form. It's multiple things combined into this to create the beast. You've got to be able to dress yourself and create looks and create numbers, and got to be editing music. And then on top of all of that and being creative and doing makeup and all that, you got to think about the business side of things. If you want to make it a career, you got to pay your taxes. You got to have a bookkeeper. You got to keep on top of your emails. It's a full-fledged business that you need to keep going. And there's no time for you to have a hiatus, mama. So that's why I'm like,
there's not.
yeah. And it's the same with a lot of different jobs, but it's one of those things. I see it so often with young drag artists. They're putting out on social media, can't do drag. It's too much for me now. It's like, well, do you want to make it a career or not? And fair enough if you don't.
Yeah.
It's not for everyone. And, there's incredible drag queens that pop out every now and then and just do it socially, or just do a number every now and then and don't make it a career. And that's so fine. But the ones that I see do it a lot are the ones that are like, I'm not being booked. I'm not being booked. It's like, well, baby, gotta hustle.
Yeah.
Gotta hustle.
Yeah, I think with any creative job that you want to make full time and you have to wear all these different hats, it's really dragging yourself
feel
through
like
the mud every
Yeah.
week just to stay on top.
Yeah, it's the same with your podcast, I'm assuming.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm a musician. That's what I do for work. So it's the same. You drag yourself through the mud. Yep.
Yeah.
And as you
It's a
said,
hustle.
in the current climate, we're essentially in an economic crisis and no one's spending money on entertainment. So it's really hard. You got to look in all those nooks and unexplored crannies just to get a dollar.
Oh, yeah, babes. Yeah, you really do. And I think, you come out of Drag Race and you kind of see what other queens can do around the world. And you get sold this idea that it's a big level up. And you know what, to a degree it is. And absolutely so grateful for it. But I never turned my nose up at working in clubs, but I definitely wanted to sort of move away from that a little bit just for my own peace of mind. And because I'm getting older and I can't, I don't like staying up until ungodly hours, but
Yeah.
yeah, I do it every now and then and whatever, and I was been trying to hustle into doing other things, but it's just got to the point now I'm like, I've missed being able to be doing drag all the time and on a regular basis. I miss that outlet. So I'm back in Sydney for a little bit now. So I'm doing a few more club things and getting back out. And I miss being with my sisters. That's the big thing I miss is to tour and everything like that. You can't commit to a permanent cast or a show because, you could be off, you need to pack up and leave, and I didn't want to take an opportunity away from someone. So I'm just dipping my toe back in slightly so I can make a bit of money and also just express myself. I'm dying to do drag.
Yeah. We'll get into it a bit later about the whole Drag Race thing, but just on what you were saying there, do you feel like since Drag Race you are kind of more lucrative to book as opposed to doing a club show? People flock to your club shows now? Is that platform that's kind of given you that, I hate this word, but insane exposure?
There's elements of it, yes. But then, because I'm from Sydney, sometimes I get booked and you just go in, it's just the regulars, which is not a bad thing. I love that. But certain shows, I think it's more when I travel outside of Sydney, I experience that a little bit more. But, you always get people that are a bit blown away that when I walk into Stonewall or Universal here, I'm just coming in to do my show. I'm like, what the hell are you doing here? And I'm like, this is home, baby. This is home. I'm just one of the girls. That's the thing. I never want Drag Race or my achievements or anything like that to inflate me or my ego. So I really try to, I'm just one of many drag artists, and I just want to be in the trenches with us all and working and being alongside the people I love. So, and I suppose it is easy to get swept up in that madness of the exposure and the limelight and all that drama. And, I do know that I have done things that have exposed me to more people. So, there are moments, you go out and someone will come up and go, can I get a photo? And then they turn to your drag sister and go, can you take the photo? I'm like, no,
Oh,
no, no, no.
no.
I was like, you find someone
She's
else
in the
to take
photo.
the
In the
photo,
photo.
and she is in the photo. Absolutely. I'm never that girl. Like, there absolutely is no way that you ask a drag sister to take a photo, ever. Never, ever, ever, ever. That is the rules.
There you go, everyone.
You heard
Number
it
one
here
advice.
first.
Yeah, yeah. Don't ever do that. But yeah, I know that it comes along with that, but I always like to make sure that I use my platform and the things that I do to enhance everyone. I think that's more important.
That's awesome to
That's
hear.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I think a
Thanks.
lot of people would not necessarily do that.
No, definitely not. So that's really humbling to hear from you. That's awesome.
So we obviously have just spoken a little bit or a lot about your drag, but who and what inspires your drag style?
That's a good question because it changes all the time. Style inspirations and stuff like that. That always changes. But I think the root of my drag always came from these strong, fabulous women that I always think about like my mum or my grandma in terms of that strength of I don't know, they just embody femininity in a way that's so powerful to me. And
Yeah.
in turn, being able to channel my femininity and finding power in that has also allowed me to find power in masculinity as well, and that both sides can live together and work harmoniously. Because I was actually, I was always been very flamboyant and always been what the world would deem quite effeminate. And I, was embarrassed by that. But I was embarrassed by being effeminate, but then I was equally embarrassed and uncomfortable being masculine.
Yeah.
And, I didn't like manly things. I was never like that. Yet in doing drag, it's kind of made me love both sides of it. And I found power in being effeminate and power in those moments where I have to be a little bit more masculine. And I learnt that from like my mom and my grandma, but then also my dad as well. He's very comfortable in his own skin. And my dad is not effeminate really in any way, but just the way that he presents masculinity. He looks like a big biker guy, but he's in touch with his emotions, his gentleness, and he embraces that. And I think there's a stereotype that men can't do that.
Yeah.
And I think that I have been so lucky that I get to look at him and go, oh, wow, like you can be emotional, you can experience softer feelings and it not be a bad thing. And so I take inspiration from him. So I look at my family a lot. And then I think, if I look at like celebrities and stuff like that, I love a diva, like I love Liza, obviously. Uh, I love people like Lady Gaga and Bette Midler, and I love Adele. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I was drawn to people that have like a sort of genuine sense of who they are. And, although I say Lady Gaga, that she's probably like all these whiz band fandangled things, but like she always has an essence of who she is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's always something in there that goes, oh, that's Lady Gaga. I like people that just know what they do and how to do it. And, they're not afraid to experiment and try different things, but there is always that essence of they know who they are and they trust in what they do.
That core value.
Yeah, that core value that you kind of see. Like, I don't like flaky people. I don't like celebrity that goes into, they're going, I'm just this now because it's trendy. I like people that stick with what they like and what they do and they do it well. And that's what I'm kind of drawn to a lot.
Awesome.
That's cool.
Also, just touching on like how your dad does the feelings and the feminine side of things, the feminine quote unquote
Feminine,
things
yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah.
Do you think that's also such a nice thing for you to view, considering there is so much toxic masculinity in the world, but we never talk about healthy masculinity and what that looks like?
100%. And I think that's something that I am seeing quite a bit of. And I think our community sometimes demonizes straight men to a degree. I think, we've got to all live on the planet. They're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. Like, we can't eradicate people from the world. So there needs to be a point where we can start to stop just tearing men down in this masculinity, because there is ways that we can all exist and find the positive in it. Because someone's so macho and scary looking, we take them at face value. That could be quite scary and confronting for us. And I get that. With time and the things that have happened to our community, that is quite frightening for some people. I understand that. But at some point, we need to progress. And, you can't always just call those behaviors toxic masculinity just because of their essence or whatever, because it's getting to know the person and who they are and their values and speaking to them. That's where you kind of find who they really are. And yes, someone could present some way in an instant, but underneath it all is something different. And I think they're equally as scared of us as we are of them. So, I try.
Yeah.
I know it's not an easy thing to do. And I sometimes feel like I live in a utopia utopia in my mind, but I do try and break that down because I think if we're not going to make the effort sometimes to engage with people that are different to us, then we're doomed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just get scared because we've asked so long as our community for a place and to be seen as humans and to be loved and, or not even to be loved, but just to be respected as a human being in this place. Like, you don't have to like what I do. You don't have to like who I sleep with. You don't have to like who I love, but just respect me as a human being, breathing air and walking around the planet. And
Yeah.
now I'm sometimes seeing our community is not giving that courtesy back,
Oh,
which
yeah.
we've asked for, and that worries me because you're just isolating people left, right, and
Yeah.
center, and again, I preface this, I'm not talking about if someone's up there and harassing you and being violent or whatever, abort mission, that's not, that's not
Yeah.
safe. I
Yeah,
get
yeah.
that. But our preconceived notions of how we see people and the way that we approach people, and sometimes I hear people like, "Oh, no straights in gay bars" and stuff like that. If someone's straight and they're in our bar and they're being respectful, what's the
Yeah.
problem?
That's
Yeah.
allyship, and that's what we need.
Exactly. That's all, we've asked for that respect. I think we need to give that respect back a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think it would help a little bit. I don't know. They're my musings. I always think about this.
No, but also,
I agree with you,
you
though.
don't want to become the thing that you dislike. Like, you're just
Well,
becoming that thing that you don't like to receive.
Oh, exactly. And it's so interesting. I think as well, like when I first started doing drag and coming out into clubs, there was this like alternative scene where they said that everyone was welcome and everyone could come and be together and they accept all different types of art. But sometimes in those alternative places, I've never felt more unwelcomed and
Yeah.
more judged. I'm like, how are you saying that you're welcoming and you bring people in when the second someone that's a little bit different to what you do, you judge them? And that's our own people, our own community. It blows my mind sometimes.
That's also abort mission.
Yeah.
Yeah, abort mission out. I think I spent so long trying to please people that were in those alternative scenes and stuff like that. And I always have a very special place in my heart for alternative artists and stuff like that. But like I've spent so long trying to please them and try and be a good stand-up member of the community for everyone. I'm like, fundamentally, I don't know if I would want to be friends with you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, like, I think you just live in your lane, you do you, boo, I'll do me, boo, and we'll just carry on. I'll say hi, give you a cuddle if I see you, but we don't need a crossover very much.
Yeah, yeah.
Totally get that. So let's talk a little bit about Drag Race. What was it
Yes.
like to compete on the show?
Oh, for both times it was I had very different feelings. I think the first time you're coming into this fresh space that you've never been in before. So, you're learning about how TV's made and see how the sausage is made for,
Yeah.
So you're kind of coming to terms with what it is to be on Drag Race. And you walk in and they just tell you, and go. And you walk in and then there's just a sea of cameras and you're kind of like, oh my God, what do I do? And then so you're learning a lot. But I love the experience. I loved making the show for Down Under. I had the best time. The cast was so much fun. It was honestly a dream to make. And I enjoyed the process. So when I got to go back, I enjoyed it even more because I knew what to expect. And I knew how it would work. Plus, I loved getting to know everyone from all over the world and
Yeah.
seeing how drag is different across the globe. And that was really exciting, and having different conversations to what we had in Down Under. Because, I think there was an element of Down Under, which still continues, is that we're all very familiar with each other. We might not all know each other personally, but we know of each other because our scenes
Yeah.
are so small.
Mm.
Whereas going into a global space, I'd seen a lot of them on TV, but I didn't know them as people. You know what I mean? And I think I just saw a character on television. So I was getting to see the person behind the character when I did UK versus the world, and I loved it. Loved it.
Yeah. That's kind of special.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. And you just realize how big of a pool of inspiration there is to pull from, opens up your world.
Yeah, for sure. So because you were on Drag Race twice, how did it feel watching the show back for the first time and I guess for the second time?
Ooh, okay, so the first time when I watched Down Under back, and as I was watching it, I actually struggled a lot because I didn't feel like I saw me there. Like I saw elements of me, but I felt like my personality got dialed down quite a bit. And like, it shone through in certain things, but I felt a bit robotic. That was the only way I could describe it when I watched it. I was like, oh, that's not
Yeah.
exactly like how I see myself. And I was, and I thought back and I was like, did I hide stuff? But I was very much an open book, and I'm always been like that. I'm always operate from a place where I'm open to the challenge and to the situations, and I don't hide stuff, but I just think when the way that things get edited and whatever, like I just felt
Mm.
like I got dialed down a little bit more just for story purposes, I think. That's how I see it anyway. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
just how I visualized it. But then when I got to go to UK versus the world, I was so excited to do it because I was like, well, there's a whole personality here that people haven't seen. So I'm just going to real lean into it. And that's what I did. And I saw myself so much more when I watched Versus than I did in Down Under. And I loved watching it. It was just so much fun because I finally got to see myself because I thought I'd lost myself, but
Mm.
Yeah.
I realized I wasn't. I didn't. It was there. It just wasn't put into the edit. So when I got to see myself, and it made me feel confident again that, like, I didn't have to dial myself down. People liked me for who I was. So it kind of gave me a boost of confidence to go, yeah, okay, I'm good. I'm okay.
Could definitely see a confidence in you the second time round, and anyone would be more confident going in, knowing what to expect rather than not.
Yeah, 100%. And like had to confirm in myself that my personality was there. It just was the edit. Because I was like, and then I'd always talk to all the girls. And I was like, where does that go? Where did this bit go? Like that wasn't
Yeah.
there. Like there was moments that I remembered, and then they confirmed. They're like, no, that definitely did happen. It was, it's not your imagination. So,
Yeah.
and it's not a bad thing. It just is the nature of the beast of the show. Is that
Mhm.
fundamentally, first and foremost, it's a reality TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So they're creating characters and they're creating stories, and it's all going to intertwine and make sense. And, so I don't begrudge it. And I'm just glad I got a second chance to be able to showcase more of what I wanted. And I think that's why I spent a lot more time focused on like the content and what that I put into challenges and stuff like that. And not that my looks were bad on UK versus the world, but they were definitely heavier camp and more like tongue in cheek. Like they weren't as fashion as I did in Down Under. There was
Yeah.
elements
Yeah.
of it, but I think I pushed that campness because I wanted to express that about myself and about Australian drag because it's a big facet of our community. It's like that tongue-in-cheek, that fun, that playful side of drag that I think we haven't necessarily been able to showcase properly on Down Under yet.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
that was my goal, to bring that kind of drag to the world. So that's why I lent heavily into like a little bit more campy stuff, with the elements of fashion, but
Yeah.
definitely a little bit more
Yeah.
campy and fun.
Did you feel like you had to purposefully amp it up to compete with those international queens, or you just wanted to show more of that side to show more of Australia?
Yeah, I definitely knew I had to amp it up because I wanted to show that about Australia, but I did want that to be something that was showcased about me, the fun side, because I felt so robotic and I felt like I didn't have that personality in Down Under, so I wanted to make sure that there was no way they could edit around it. Like
Yeah.
it was there,
Give you no leeway.
Yeah, no leeway. But then when I got to Versus, I'm there with people like Le Grand Dame and Marina Summers and all these like powerhouses of fashion and jumpers, and all these girls have come in with these like high fashion looks. And I'm there with dressed as a cat, So, it did get me a little bit because I was like, oh God, have I let too heavily into it? Because I got one of the critiques was that dreaded your drag's very costumey. And that
Yeah.
really irritates the shit out of me because I'm like, well, drag is costumes. For me, it's never a garment or anything like that. It's a costume. Always.
Mm.
Even if a high fashion look or whatever, it is a costume for me because
Yeah.
drag is my
Yeah.
art. And so when I got told that, I was like, oh God, here we fucking go. But I persevered. I persevered and it didn't turn out too bad. So
Do you know what I hate when we watch it
Yeah.
and someone comes out really costumey and I'm like, oh
yeah.
no, they're gonna say too costumey, and then either
It's usually Michelle, I
Rue or
think.
Michelle go, oh my
Yeah.
God, I love it, and I'm like, what?
Wow, yeah. I
Y'all are
know,
probably
you
looking
can't
at the
keep
same
up.
thing.
I was actually really interested that the look that divided the panel straight down the middle, there was two judges that loved it, two that hated it, was the costume that I made, the princess, because it was meant to be like, we got told it was fairy tale princess. So I
Yeah.
went in my mind, those real knockoff Disney, the little fish girl or like,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
not they're
Yeah.
not they're not quite right. We had them called Pickwick movies when I was
Oh,
a
yeah.
kid, like, and
Or
they're on
like the Little
VHS and
Mermaid from Temu.
It's the Wish version.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, it was very that. It was like, it's like it's not quite right, and that's what I went for. That real tacky like thing. And Rue loved it, and the model loved it, and they got it. But Graham Norton and Michelle hated it. They're like, oh, it's gross. But I remember making it, and someone said that it was tacky in the workroom, and I turned around and I'm like, tacky, and I hold it out. This look tacky to you? And a gothy Kendall to this day, every time I see her, she will be getting dressed or something. She's like, tacky? Does this look tacky to you? And she's like, it was one of my favorite things because she's like, it was so tacky, yet you just could not see that it was tacky.
That is the best.
That's the Australian in you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and like looking back, Mama, it was tacky, but the position of the mice up the skirt was so formulaic, and I was like, should have been a bit more sporadic to make it look like the mice were running around, but I made it all into these patterns, like I'd killed the mice and I dip dyed them and then glued them like as like applique.
Oh, lovely.
Look, art is subjective.
It is subjective. But those mice, just so you know, they weren't real. They were pet toys. So
Thanks for clearing that
don't
up.
come for
Nothing was
me.
harmed in the making of.
The
No,
tackiness.
only my little fingers. But yeah. Only my ego.
Yeah, definitely.
Tacky? Does this look tacky to you?
That is going to be our go-to thing now.
That's going to be
because-
promo for this episode, just so you know.
It's so good. I love it. I love it. Makes me laugh. I'll send it to Gothy.
Good.
Yes, please do. How did it feel being invited back for UK versus the world?
It was magic. Like, I didn't expect to be invited back, let alone so soon. I was a bit shocked, to be honest. I was like, you sure? And then like, yes, we want you. So I was like, okay, great. If you want to, I was down for it. So just felt very honored, and I was very moved to be the first Australian representative, because we had Nita on Canada versus the world. So she got to go back first. But I was the first Australian to do it. So I felt very honored to be the first Aussie girl, and then Queen followed, which was amazing as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And what does that look like to get invited back? Is it a phone call? Is it an email?
what was it?
Was it a in-person?
No, it was phone call, and I was in England, actually, ironically. I was visiting my partner's family. I was having a cigarette at like 7 a.m. It was freezing cold because it was in January, and I was up in the north part of England, and it was just overcast, cold, and rainy. And then I get a call while I'm having my ciggy, and they're like, "Do you want to come back?" And I was like, "Yes, I will." And they're like, "Okay, we'll send you a contract this afternoon." And I was like, "Okay." So I run back in. I'm like, "Jack, I'm going back to Drag Race. Let's wrap this holiday up. Let's go. I gotta go."
You were already in the UK though.
I know. I should have just stayed, but then things had to be done. I had to get back
all the
and
stuff.
yeah, so we just we hit the ground running. As soon as I got the call, I started obviously getting my Snatch Game stuff together. Like, there's things you can do, like figured out entrance outfit. They're the things that's how my mind works. So I start locking in the things I know, and then when I get the list, then I go, great, okay, here we go. And we sort of had ideas of what we wanted to bring when I knew that it was happening. You kind of know they're going to do like a home country. You can infer some things.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
there was we toyed with the idea of the shrimp on the Barbie, like Barbie with the big shrimp headpiece or something. And I was like, oh no. And then we thought I could do like the opera house dress that Barbie
Yeah.
did at one point. And then I was like, nah, that's not right. And then that's when we came up with the frill neck lizard. And then it just kind of spiraled from there, because I wanted to show Priscilla and then pay homage and my love to our Aboriginal culture. And that's how I got in touch with Paul, and we got the artwork on the outfit, and it was pretty epic. So those things all happened pretty quickly because I started thinking about what I assumed what would be in the package.
Yeah.
That's smart.
But on the contract,
Yeah.
do they tell you? They obviously give you some sort of idea of week to week what the runway is going to be. That's how you can be prepared in a way.
Yeah, you get like a list. It's not given like this is this week, this is that week. Like,
Right.
because that all can change. You
Change.
just get told this is the theme, these are the guidelines, and then you kind of work in with that. And it's a lot of fun because it's like you then kind of try and figure out how to put your own twist in it. One of the looks, what was it? The Gone Cruising look. which the joke never landed in my mind the whole time. I never really understood. It was like, oh, cruising, like,
Yeah.
like gay culture. Oh, hello.
Yeah.
Because they said it was like nautical, and I didn't get the joke in my head, whatever. But initially I was going to do like something similar to what Scarlet Envy ended up doing, which was the dead lady from Titanic thing, and it
Yeah.
was going to be like ghostly. And then I got the outfit. I committed to it, but then I got the outfit, and my designer Kirsten, she made it so gorgeous, and it was like this Victorian era, beautiful sailor girl. I was like, I can't be a ghost now. I've got to change the whole look. So I ended up being like this high-end street walker
Yeah.
Ooh.
hanging around the docks dressed in her finest lace, the
Going
madam
cruising.
of the yeah, going cruising. So it's interesting how it all sort of works as you start getting things constructed, and then you're like, okay, I've got to shift that a little bit to make that work. Because by the time it's like 2 days before you leave, it is what it is. You just got to make it work. So
Yeah.
Well, it's a lot of pressure, isn't it?
yeah, it is. But I thrive in it. I love it. I would definitely go back and do it again if I get the chance.
Cool.
Putting it out there if
Yeah.
anyone's listening.
Yeah, see if
Manifesting.
listening, mum, I want to come back. But yeah, I definitely love to give it a go because I love the process of it. It's so much fun to film, and I love meeting all the girls, doing the challenges. The whole thing is just really thrilling and exciting.
Just hoping to get the crown finally.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, I know. Well, I've learnt now 2 times being a runner-up, professional runner-up. But, it's not too bad.
No, it's not.
I don't know. It's just something to do with your time,
Look, how many people can say that they're a professional runner-up?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, there's apparently 6 of us.
Oh.
At least you're not Jujubee
Yeah.
and you've been on like 6 or 7 and you just keep getting knocked out.
I know. Well,
Poor
look, I
Juju.
wouldn't be mad. Wouldn't be mad to be Jujubee at this point.
Yeah, that's true. So, how would you describe the difference between competing against fellow Australian queens to being up against international queens? What's the difference in pressure there that you put on yourself?
I didn't really put pressure on myself, if I'm honest. Like, I just wanted to enjoy the experience. Like, I consider it like a roller coaster. You got to get on and you go up the highs and lows and you just go with it. I think if you start pushing back or trying to fight the system will bite. So, you
Yeah.
kind of have to just, you got to get on board with it and you got to go with it and roll with it and just see what happens. And always trust your instincts. That's what I learned both times. And I've always been good at doing it, but like I just really knew how good I was at doing it was when like my first idea that came to my head, I'd stick with it because you don't have time to dally with different ideas. And I think that's where I sort of thrive. But then in terms of competing against the Australian, New Zealand queens versus the world queens, I think there's a familiarity that you have with Down Under queens. This level of comfort because you kind of are all familiar with each other. So there's some established friendships and connections. And there was that to a small degree in verses because we're familiar with each other, but we're just never really connected on this level. So you kind of like feel like you're all different species of animals coming into one little drinking pond and you kind of sussing each other out and figuring out how each other works. And so there's a lot more learning on the human side that goes into doing the verses than it does the Down Under, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
No, that does make sense.
I kind of think about it like if it's the Lion King, it's all those animals coming together at the watering hole and you're just drinking and kind of sussing everyone out and seeing where you fit and how it all works. That's what it's kind of like.
And because is it true that you only really get to integrate with the other queens while you're on camera? Every other time you're shut away?
Yes, to a degree. They were a little bit more lenient with us in the verses because I think we'd all been through the machine. So we know on-camera stuff and whatnot versus things that aren't camera worthy. So there was a little bit more leniency. So we got to still talk and whatnot. But you're definitely locked away. You're not in each other's rooms or anything like that. You're locked away on the set of UK. Yeah, that's it,
Yeah,
home
wow.
time into your quarters.
Because that can sometimes cause pressure cooker situations, hey?
Yeah, because, you want to save everything for the show.
Yeah.
I understand it. It makes perfect sense. So you just got to be wise about the things that needs to be said on camera. Make sure it's said on camera. Like
yeah.
RuPaul said it to Pearl. Well, apparently she said it to Pearl. I don't know. Allegedly, she said if it's not said on camera, it doesn't matter. And it's true. Like we're there to do a job and we're there to make TV. And
That's true.
you wouldn't want to waste things that could be used in the show. And it also gives you a moment on the show. So if you think you have something to bring, save it for the camera. And then the likelihood of it being in the show is higher. So yeah, it's good. But then I think as it goes on, there's a bond that builds because you're the only ones that were there, the only ones who experienced it in that time, in that setting, in that cast. So it's just inevitable you build a bond. And I'm lucky that to cement the bond, both seasons have had tours, so we could all be together.
Oh, yeah.
And that's really where the magic happens. Because you realize that the TV thing was one thing, but now we're sisters and we're family and we get to like spend time. Like that tour that we did in the UK, we all slept on a bus and we
Wow.
were together all the time. It was the best
Amazing.
experience of my
Yeah.
life. And that's the magic that comes out of Drag Race that I'm so grateful for, is that like get to do things like that.
That's
Yeah,
absolutely like
that's-
old school touring.
I love that. Speaking
Yeah.
of TV, Jess had a question before and she didn't even ask it, but she wanted to know, is it distracting when you guys are walking down the runway and RuPaul and Michelle are yelling out these
The dad jokes.
the dad jokes?
Oh no, I loved it. So you do the runway twice, so once with music, so you can go out and you feel your fantasy and you live your life, and then you come back and then you do another bog lap, and that's when they're doing their jokes. And like, it's not distracting at all. I find it hysterical. It's hard because they're like, don't interact, but then it's hard not to because
Yeah.
like, I'm like, I like that one. That's a good one,
That's funny.
But that's always fun because that's where those little moments of TV magic happen because you can like,
Yeah.
you might hear them and then they do something to match what they're saying
Yeah.
and then you feed it. So being on Drag Race is like table tennis, like RuPaul says. If you see a moment, grab the moment because that makes good TV.
Yeah.
And that is what's fun. So yeah, it's not distracting. It's a lot of fun. I love hearing what they said. One of my favorite ones though, Catherine Ryan. She's the comedian that did the roast episode.
Yeah.
She was the funniest bitch in the whole entire world. Like her jokes went on sometimes for like 30 or 40 seconds after we'd left the stage.
Oh, wow.
She'd still be going.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
she's like so quick. It was so much fun. And we were howling. Like we were out the back, all of us just screaming at some of the shit she was saying.
Before you signed on, I was doing the RuPaul to
Oh,
Lauren.
God,
I was
it
like,
was so bad.
I was like, my Hannah Conda do.
Yeah. I've never heard that one before in my life. So thank you. That's really been
I was
so
like,
original.
calm down.
What a straight lie.
Yeah.
Without throwing too much shade to the show, because that's not my intention with this question, but is there a mutual understanding between everyone that goes on that regardless of the talent, they might keep someone who makes better television rather than the talent that deserves to stay?
Yeah,
That's a good
I
question.
suppose that sometimes it does appear that way, but then when you're in it, like I always think about this because when you watch it, sometimes you go, oh, that's wrong. Like, how could that happen? But then, like, when we were there and when we're filming, none of it feels like that. Really? Well, I never felt like that personally. Like I felt like things happened the way that they should happen. And it wasn't till rewatching it then I'm like, oh, okay, I see how there was people that were upset by this. Like I get that. But yeah, I suppose there is an element to that. I didn't experience it. I don't know that that is the case. But, I think once someone's time is, yeah, I just generally felt like it was once someone was run their course and things weren't working, I always kind of agreed with it. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. It's when you watch it, I know that sometimes things look a bit weird or like favoritism, all that come in and people go, oh my God, they were robbed and whatever. But then when you're there, I didn't feel it. I just didn't feel it. So
Yeah. Well, I tend to agree. Like, if you're there and you're in the moment, you're experiencing it on a completely different level to us. We're like the fourth wall that you don't break, right? So
yeah.
I think if you felt like there was a genuineness to it, then it probably was that.
Yeah, and like that's the thing. I just never really questioned any of the decisions that were made or the things that had happened at all. Like I was just kind of like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then when I watched it, I was like, oh, okay, that does look a little bit sus. Like, oh, maybe they could have been in the bottom, like. But hey, at the end of the day, like I said, it's the magic of TV. And we're lucky to be there and get to show our art. And I think that's the thing that I take away from it. I could have gone home first and I still would have been happy because I still got to be there and be a part of it. It makes it harder, I suppose, on the other end when you kind of got to try and sell yourself. But the real work of Drag Race starts post-show because you got to hustle. Got to hustle.
Yeah. And talking about that dreaded word again, exposure, like even if you just make that first 12 or first 10, you're at least on this platform, and all these people that
know you.
that are following the franchise suddenly know who you are.
Yeah, and you just never know where it's going to take you. And, that's the thing I say to some of her sisters who've been out earlier or whatever. And I know that's heartbreaking, and I can't imagine how it would feel, because it's probably incredibly heartbreaking and maybe makes you feel invalid or anything. But it doesn't matter about what happens on the show. It's about how then you use whatever, like, because there are people that love us no matter where we land. Everybody has at least one fan out there, and that's the people that you got to start playing to. And then you got to start figuring out the ways that you can milk the teat that you've been given to suckle. So
I love it.
Yeah, you can quote me on that. But yeah, I think that's the thing. You got to not see it as a disadvantage, but look at the advantages of it.
Yeah.
You're in a position where a lot of other people don't get to be in. So I know it's shitty, but make what we can from it.
Yeah, definitely.
That's very true. We've spoken a lot about Drag Race, but I want to go a little bit back in time, which we do with all our guests. And if you're happy to tell us about your own self-discovery journey and what that looked like for you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I think it's constantly been evolving over my 33 years. And, people go, oh, 33, still so young. I feel like it's always older people telling you that you're still young. And I find that very interesting. Do you feel that?
Yeah, like you and I are the same age when you just
Oh,
said that,
yeah? 91 babies.
Yeah, I totally feel that. But I view myself in this way that I'm like, oh shit, I'm getting on. Got to get my shit together. And then other people are like, oh no, you're so young. But it's like, we're all on a clock that we give ourselves, right? We're all on this weird deadline.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I've tried to constantly remind myself these days that you got to enjoy each of the things that you do. And I think I rush through a lot of things, because post Drag Race, bang, 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 all these things are happening, and you never really get to sit in it and be grateful for it and be thankful for it. So, now I'm journaling to try and remind myself to be grateful for the things that I have, and set goals about the things that I want to have in the future. And once I do a job, I try to give myself a moment to go enjoy it, what it was, because I think we rush through things, and the turnover of things is so quickly because of the way we consume things, like with social media and everything. I think that's my journey of discovery at the moment, is that I just allow myself to just not rush and enjoy the moments, and know that this is a long haul journey for me, not a flash in the pan. I think I really sort of came into my own in my last year of high school when I got to leave and got to get out of the all boys high school and became comfortable with my sexuality, and then that really opened me up to just sort of liberating myself. I think our family's very open. We've always been sort of quite a new age family, I suppose. I always say this, therapy family. We did Reiki as a family. We all went and learned hands-on healing. So we've been very in touch with those sort of things, which I know a lot of people aren't. So I've been very lucky to be able to be a bit more self-aware as I've gotten older, and it's only gotten better as I've gotten older. I'm still learning things here, but my parents taught me to journal while I was in Perth over the New Year's, so I'm doing that now. So yeah, my journey of self-discovery is constant. It's ongoing.
Yeah.
I don't limit myself. I'm not afraid of conversations and talking things out and sitting with the hard stuff, because I know that while there might be hard moments, there's so many good ones. So it's been that kind of journey. It's constantly evolving.
Talking on sexuality, did you have a queer awakening crush that made you go, oh?
Oh, yes. It can be a cartoon.
Oh, Lauren has to have this disclaimer that it can be a cartoon, because hers was She-Go from Kim Possible, and I gave her so much shit.
She did.
Yeah, I love that. Well, mine was Prince Eric from The Little Mermaid. So
suck it.
I just always knew I wanted to be his lover as a
his
kid,
Ariel?
but I never know what the his Ariel, but also Michael Keaton's Batman.
Oh, I can see that.
Did you sway between that? Do I want to be him or do I want to be with him? Did you sway between that?
For a brief moment, but it was always, I just want to be Catwoman, and I want Michael Keaton to push me into a pile of kitty litter and have his wicked way with me.
I love that so much.
Hear me out.
Yeah.
Hear me out.
There is a sick part of me that is also really attracted to Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice in the 1980 film.
Is it personality though? Because I totally get that.
I think so.
Yeah.
There's something sexy about him. Like there was the confidence and like I love when he grabbed his dick and he kicked the thing down and goes, "Nice fucking model," and honks his dick. That used to give me a baby stiffy. I tell you, I was like, oh,
You're like, that's
yeah,
tough bitch
hot.
energy. I love it.
Yeah, yeah, hot, hot. But you know, maybe it is just his personality because there was something about him that was just so sexy. I don't know. I loved Michael Keaton.
But it's like unwavering confidence that's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
full of yourself is so
It's
sexy.
sexy.
Yeah, and someone that's funny as well. Like I love humor, and I think that's what I learned that I'm attracted to is someone that can be quite funny, not cringy, but like someone that's comfortable being a bit of a dick is like someone that I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
hot.
Yeah. I get it. I totally get it.
Who or what was representation for you growing up?
Ooh, I don't really know that I looked for queer representation because I didn't really like, I grew up, you know, in the 90s and stuff. I just looked at things that I liked and was a Disney kid and loved
Yeah.
fairy tales, loved magic, loved Greek myths. I loved Egyptian stories. I just liked what I liked and I
Yeah.
didn't look for someone like me specifically, I don't think. I liked when I saw qualities like someone that was a little bit more feminine or someone that was a little bit more emotional as a male character. I would draw to that, but I was always drawn to girls and female characters and
Mm.
stuff like that. So I never really looked for queer representation. And I think maybe now that was probably a good thing, you know, that I got to
Yeah.
take inspiration from a broad range of people and characters and ideas because I think if you start just looking for people that are you, you lose the ability to empathize. And, you know, I think that's why now as an adult, I think I'm quite good at empathizing with other people and seeing where other people are coming from because I don't just look for people like me.
Mm.
Yeah.
I find beauty in the difference of everybody. And I have what a boring world if we all the same.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that is
Literally.
boring.
So
Like, you know, I
boring.
like the complexities of humanity. And that's why I say, like, if we get bogged down in just sort of limiting ourselves to our own group, then what's the point? That's boring. You need to experience a range of ideas. And even if you don't agree with them, sometimes you learn so much about you and your own ideas when you sit with someone or sit around someone that disagrees with you completely
Yeah.
because it helps you to learn confidence in your own identity, in your own self, in your own ideas, because it reestablishes those things, but it also makes you go, oh, I can sit with someone that's different and we can get along. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Because you
Definitely.
strip away all the identity and you just are people. It doesn't happen
Yeah.
all the time, by all means. I get this as, again, utopia me speaking. But like it doesn't happen all the time. But it's something that I think is pretty special if you can have a moment like that with someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, your family is very open, but have you been brought up to be quite spiritual?
Yeah, to a degree. I grew up Catholic and my grandma was a big guiding force. She wanted to help me become a priest and
Wow.
Wow.
yeah, you know, and I went along that journey. It lasted until like year 10, so which is still quite a significant period of
Yeah.
time, you know, those formidable years. And a lot of it in the latter part was because I did start realizing I was gay and I learnt what gay was. And I was like, I know that that's me, but I'm going to die in the fiery pits of hell if I live that lifestyle. So, you know, I kind of stayed with it out of fear. But then as I got older and the walls started to fall from that, I realize if God created me the way that I was meant to be created and he never made mistakes, then why doesn't he love me for who I am? So I
Exactly.
was like, this is not making sense, church. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so the penny sort of dropped and I was like, okay, this is not right. And I'm so grateful and glad to hear that there's facets of the Catholic Church and Christianity that are now moving away from taking it verbatim because it's not meant to be taken like that. So I'm glad that people are finding the ability to find a place in Catholicism, but it's just not for me. I thought about going back to church for a bit because I lived for a while without any sort of faith or any spirituality. And I actually found that did me a bit of a disservice, I think, because there needs to be something in your life. And I think it's an individual thing as well. Like having something to believe in that makes life have a meaning and it can be whatever it is. For me, it's spirit guides. I feel like I'm
Mhm.
guided by different spirits and former loved ones that I've lost, and they're around me, and I feel their energies, and I'm very energetic, and I definitely have been in tune with those sort of vibrations of the world.
I get that from you a lot. That's why
Yeah.
I asked the question.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I very much operate, very in tune with that kind of way of being now. And I felt like that's sort of been in my life maybe the last 7 or 8 years. And that helped me a great deal with my mental health because it made me feel like there was a purpose to what we're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
And everyone has to have something they believe in, regardless of what that is.
And that's exactly right. It doesn't have to be a religion or anything like that. I just think having a form of spirituality in any form is really important to just make you feel like like we're doing something with life and like,
Yeah.
there's something we're working for. And like it's an individual thing, I think. I don't like forced religion or forced, spirituality. That's why I seldom talk about it because I do like
Yeah.
to, it is a very personal thing, but I think it's important to have a part of that because I think as queer people, because we've been ostracized by religion so often, I think it's our natural way of being that we sort of avoid and pull away. And I get that because I've been there. But now I just felt like I've come around to it, the idea of spirituality, and I definitely have my own practices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess like none of us know the true meaning of life. So at the end of the day, we've got to make the most of our time here and we have to build our own belief systems because
Yeah.
otherwise, what are we doing? And whether that system helps you believe in yourself, I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, because sometimes you look at the world and you're like, "Fuck, this is a shit show. What is going
Yeah,
on?"
honestly.
And like,
yes.
what are we doing? So,
Yep.
like, even if it's just something to just get you through day by day and go, I'm making some sort of difference here in my own space and with
Mhm.
my own circles, that helps a little bit, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
Well, we only have a couple of questions left, but thank you so much for your time.
Yes.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's been such a joy.
Oh, it has
Has
been.
been.
Tell us what is next for Hannah Conda in 2025.
Ooh, okay, so this year is the first year that I haven't really had anything drag race related happening. Like I haven't been getting ready for a season or doing anything like so or waiting for a season to come out. So this is a different year and I've been a bit nervous about it because I don't really have much locked in. Like I'm just kind of taking it as it comes, which is scary.
Yeah.
But it's also really exciting because I feel like I'm open to be able to take life in any direction. I'm playing with music. I've got my own podcast. It's called What's Lost Got to Do with It. So
I love
I'm
that.
starting to record that again. Yeah, it's fun. It's an exploration of loss. Being a professional runner-up, I thought, well, what better person to discuss loss in its myriad of forms than me? So that's been a joy. So I'm loving working on that. I've got some more music coming, working on my one-woman show. I've got the Snatch Game tour coming up. So there's bits scattered throughout the year, but nothing big and solid because I'm just open to see what the world wants from me. So,
Yeah.
Ready to grab the bull by the horns.
yes, I am. I'm ready to grab the bull's balls.
I thought you said revenue grab the balls.
Yeah, didn't you hear me?
Yeah, I loved it.
Well, again, thank you for being here. Our final question that we ask every guest at the moment for 2025 is, do you like being queer?
No, I hate it. No, I love our queer community. I love the magic of it. And I love the magic that being a queer person allows you to have. Because I think even though we get born into some spaces that aren't always great for us and that we have to grow up a little bit harder and there's things that are a bit tougher to face, it builds this thick skin and this ability for us to sort of create magic out of nothing. Because sometimes that's the situation that we're put in because people underestimate us or they don't see us as equal human beings. So you're kind
they
of
try to
forced,
erase us.
yeah, to try to erase. So we're forced to be creative and we got to have grit and we got to be a bit more tough. And, I love that about us and I wouldn't change being gay or being queer at all. I love it. I think the only thing that I would ask of our community is that, like I said earlier, we start looking at ways that we can be a little bit kinder to each other in our own communities and our own spaces. You don't always have to get along with everyone, but you can be cordial and respectful and a little bit kinder to each other. But also find ways that we can start integrating with people that don't necessarily agree with us so that we can start healing. Because I think the power in being able to humanize ourselves to someone that doesn't see us as human or subhuman is really, really incredible. I've seen it firsthand. I've experienced it. I've had conversations with people that are not very nice people, and I've been in drag and I've got to talk to them in calm, civil ways, and you find common ground. And I hope that we can do more of that this year so that we can start nipping in the bud this divisiveness. And I do get scared that we're slipping backwards.
Yeah.
And it comes from fear. It comes from people not understanding how to relate with us and us being defensive. And fear, I suppose, from our end as well of how we're going to be received. So we need to sort of figure out how we're going to navigate this space because I don't want us to slip back. I think there's ways that we can go forward positively and make some really great change. So we just got to be willing to have a conversations and have some of the tough conversations with respect and kindness.
Yeah. What a brilliant way to finish
That's
the
a perfect
episode.
way, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, babes.
Thank you so much for joining us, Hannah. It's been so amazing getting to know the roots of your drag and the magic behind Hannah Conda, and all the little tidbits you gave us about Drag Race has been amazing.
Oh, I love you both.
We love you.
too.
We hope that everyone listening has enjoyed this as much as we did because
Literally.
it's been amazing. And we're so grateful that you agreed to come
Yeah,
on
very
and share
grateful.
your stories with us. It's been amazing.
You are so welcome. I'm so glad. I can't wait to come back.
Yay! Yes. Well, to wrap up this episode, until next week.
You better remember to...
Stay gay, motherfuckers!
Woo! Yeah!
Yay! Stay gay, motherfuckers!
I'm talking about, you're talking about, we're talking about just gay stuff.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Just Gay Stuff. Make sure to follow us at Just Gay Stuff Podcast on all your socials and write to us with your stories at justgaystuffpodcast@gmail.com.